the most expensive house I've ever sold, and I've done well over 1,800 houses over 20 years, was a CINC lead for over $1 million, which in New Hampshire is huge, and it actually got me on the luxury board. So it was, I really appreciated it. So they were kicking some real numbers out, but we don't do that in New Hampshire. So we actually have a number of good seller leads there too.
Awesome. So I could get up here and give you a pitch on CINC and kind of walk through why I think CINC is the best CRM in the solution, but here's the reality, and I know it. CRMs are not sexy, they're not new. They are the workhorse solution of the business. And what we're trying to do as a business right now, and one of our main themes is making profits cool again. Right? Because profitability is cool. It affords you the ability to have the freedom that you want, and so many of the things that we talk about as the goals for your clients. And so I wanted to bring some of my clients up here with me to sort of tell that story for me, and really just kind of walk through what their experience has been. But let's start off, and this is a general question. I'd love to hear from all three of you on how it is that you are utilizing your systems like CINC to incorporate the Workman Success Systems both in your business and how you would recommend doing so for your clients as well.
So my situation's a little different. I'm in the rebuild phase. So for me, it's the best way to A, cherry pick, and B, inspect what I expect, meaning because we've let our team go and we're rebuilding, we are now using it as a very opportunistic system, meaning we look for, and yesterday when we were here and I knew I was going to do this, I just went in and I looked at, we average 4 leads a day from CINC. And then I go in, the next criteria I look at is how many times someone's looked at a house, and the high for the page 1 was 26. That person gets moved up, and then Heather, who's my empowered champion, is going to reach out to her on a 5-day campaign. So what we're doing right now is we're using it as a way to tide us over between where we are now and where we expect to be in December. So what it allows us to do is use the Workman tools of Top 50 and events, which are what drives our personal business after 25 years, but then also allow us to introduce some new people. And I've got some longer term stuff that we're using, which you probably have later. The biggest shout out I gave them here when we talked about doing this was the most expensive house I've ever sold, and I've done well over 1,800 houses over 20 years, was a CINC lead for over $1 million, which in New Hampshire is huge, and it actually got me on the luxury board. So it was, I really appreciated it. So they were kicking some real numbers out, but we don't do that in New Hampshire. So we actually have a number of good seller leads there too.
Awesome.
So I've been using CINC since 2018. I got CINC when I started coaching to build my team. I needed a CRM. That was one of my main things. And I just have really seen the value in it in my business and my team. We use it for ABC tracking because you can add tags. Then you can go into those tags and it will pull up that list of clients that you're going to call that are A leads, B leads, C leads. We use it for our top 50 for our events. We use it for our past clients. You can tag everything in there. I think the biggest benefit that we've seen probably over the last year and 2 years is one, there is an opportunity thing up in the top right corner that you click, and it literally shows you anybody that is active on the website right now, and it shows you anybody that you have sent an email to. When they opened it, it's all within 24 hours. It literally gives you a list saying, call these people. These are active right now people. The other thing that I've really loved is the AI that's built into it. So Alex is the assistant, but I love it because the conversations it has when people log onto the site is so personal. And I gave this example to Matt the other day. It had a 3-hour-long conversation with a client the other day, and the client, her husband had passed away, and it showed empathy. It was like, I'm so sorry about your situation. How can we help? And she's like, I need to sell my house. And it just blew my mind when I went back and read that conversation. And then when we called that client, to set the listing appointment, she was like, your assistant, Alex, is just so helpful. And she was so awesome. And then it was funny because we had another client do it, and it was like, Alex was so awesome. He was so helpful. And so it's so like, Alex could be a guy or girl, and it's so personal.
And-
It's so helpful.
Yeah, no, we hear that particular piece of feedback pretty often. I will say we are now working on developing our third version of our AI solution, which really was leading the market when we first rolled it out about 4 years ago. But there was one story, and the reason why we've iterated and had to continue iterating on our AI is it was not always so emotionally intelligent. We did have, I'll just throw this out there because it is a funny story.
Yeah.
We had a client who had a prospect that was and one of the things about our AI that sets it apart is that it's the attempt of our AI is to get to the why of someone's move, not the what, right? So we're not looking for where, I mean, we do collect all that information as well, but it's really trying to understand the why behind it so that you can create authentic human connection before you even pick up the phone and have the first phone call. But this particular prospect was getting divorced, and apparently their spouse had cheated on them with their cousin, and it was a super awkward. And they said, "So I need to find a new place." And the response from AI was, "That's great. I can help you with that." And so we've definitely had a lot of learnings about AI along the way, and continue to iterate on that. So
Are you saying that was the wrong answer? 'Cause that's probably what I would have said.
yes, yeah, well. So yeah. So how about you, Caprice?
I'll say one last thing, but the conversions for our team, we've already closed 10 deals straight out of CINC this year to date.
Awesome.
And they're really, I mean, of course, there's a lot of leads in there that get filtered out, and I had a client, our average sales price in my market area is $270K. We had $1 million lead come through, and most of them you think, oh, those are looky-loos. Literally, he was an anesthesiologist moving from Wyoming, looking at a house. He said, I'll be there Saturday. I want to look at this house. And he made an offer and bought $1 million home out of CINC. So it does work.
That's awesome. Congrats. So Workman Systems, we definitely, for our pillars, our top 50 is there and tagged. SOI is in there and tagged per agent. And that really helps us do our specific type of marketing for the specific agents to both their top 50 and to their SOI. And then we also do a seminar every single month, both one in Spanish and one in English. And all people who come, because sometimes we'll talk about that on the radio and we know people are coming or we don't. And that allows us right at registration to get people added and into it. And so it helps us with conversion on that. And then we also do teach lead tracking in there. So ABCs, but we just leave it hot, warm, cool, and just convert that way, and it allows us to say if you haven't, if this is a warm, you shouldn't have a touch longer than, so many 15 days, 14 days. So we can accomplish that in there as well. And then one of the big, I guess one thing that just kind of I think is pretty outstanding and took us to CINC is as I was looking at the different CRM options, because you guys have heard this already, so many of our clients have a preference of English or Spanish, and it allows us to mark that. And then Alex, that she introduced you to, Alex has the ability to respond in Spanish. And so if someone speaks Spanish to Alex, then Alex can respond in Spanish as well. And then it also lets us just obviously separate who are Spanish or English speakers, are Spanish speakers, and it lets us, market to people in their preferred language. And honestly, guys, if you think about that, that's huge. It's a heavy lift on our side to be doing both English and Spanish marketing and translation, and it's also part of our conversion, and so it helps with that.
That's great, yeah. And I know specifically, Caprice, on your site, you've turned on our real verified leads, which is, so for everybody that may not be aware, we sort of, if you've been paying attention to a lot of what's happening with the telecom regulations and texting and phone calls and all that stuff and privacy policies. One of the things that we decided as a business to really try to get out ahead of the market was all of these compliance rules that are going to be happening with registrations. And so we've created something we call real verified leads, which is two-factor authentication. And so for those of you who may not know right off the bat what that is, that's when you register for something, it sends you a text code to your phone, and then you put in that text code. So what we've done now is enabled you to tell when a lead comes in if it is the person who is actually filling out the information. So you know if the phone number is good, if it's not just if it's a valid phone number, but if it's actually that person, right? And so I know on Caprice's side, we were just looking at the data earlier, and 77% of her last 150 leads are real verified. That means you can call with confidence, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that agents have is they're not confident, number one, that it'll even be somebody. I mean, how many times have we all heard the leads suck, the leads suck, the leads suck, right? Now, with real verified leads, your agents can pick up the phone and call and know beyond the shadow of a doubt that it was the person that put that information in. And so I think...
Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that real? Like, I'm sure all of it, like, Mahalo, like just seeing some of this. So thanks for coming and saying that. Jonathan sent me a text right before and said that. And I mean, that's going to be something I take back to the team. These are people that are responding, and we have a high rate of that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I changing gears maybe a little bit here. So post NAR settlement world, right? Why are you all still bullish on buyer leads and lead generation strategies to grow your team?
That's funny. That's exactly what I want to talk about. So one of the biggest things is, especially when you have a small team and you're trying to do reasonable good volume, is learning and actually getting the words right and practicing on people that may or may not be ready today. So if you happen to make them upset. So one of the things that we've been using our CINC leads from is we've been calling and trying to set the expectation of buyer agency agreements in the beginning. And what it does is it gives us a large pool of people to call. And we've always, so for the past 4 years, up until just a few months ago, we had a full-time ISA, and our ISA would be very aggressive in talking to everybody. But back then, it was very easy. We were just trying to get face-to-face with them. Well, today we're trying to have a conversation about what we have to do before we can get face-to-face with them. So one of the things that Heather and Deb have been doing is they've been using those people as an opportunity to polish the scripts and skills they need for people to understand. And we actually took the work, bringing it back to what we do with Workman, we actually did a group call the other day where we took and we made our levels of service, and then we made our scripts for how to explain them, and we did our pricing and how you're going to pay for us and all this other stuff. And what we've done is we've used those scripts to then turn around and practice on people that may not be ready for 3 to 6 months down the road, so that they can come back to us and see us. So for me, that's how I use it for the DOJ, is I use it to try to get better at them. And then when I do have a top 50 or an SOI buyer or seller, I'm going to be much more ready to have the right conversation. I always say the worst time to be thinking about what you're going to say is when you're saying it. Well, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, great.
Me?
That's for you too.
Oh, well, I learned something new on Wednesday. We were having this long conversation, but there is a feature in CINC that actually has a little like short buyer rep that you can send an e-sign to buyer if they request a showing on a property. And then I also love CINC because it integrates with dotloop, which I love dotloop, but you can, download any of those documents into your dotloop for transaction management, or even contracts, solds, any of that stuff. So I think with the new changes, having access to that, so when those people are requesting showings or requesting more information, that conversation's already started. So it takes some of that load off of you initiating that, because then you're just reiterating, hey, I know you received this. Do you understand what you signed? Let's go look at this house.
Yep.
So I love that feature too. Like, I love, you guys are always coming up with new features any way the market changes.
Yeah, no, that's, and really that is, our goal, our mission and vision as a company is to become the indispensable technology partner to real estate teams and brokerages. And that's really what it's all about is, right, when the market shifts, we are doing everything we possibly can to get out ahead of it. And so what specifically Rhiannon's talking about is our integration with SkySlope, their forms product, which allows us to put in the buyer agency agreements from all 50 states. And even you can upload your own, I believe, as well now too, if you have one that you want to use. But it allows you to put it in your workflow for your buyer leads. And so I was actually discussing this with a couple of you last night, where the best place in that workflow to put it is, right? Is it better to meet in person first with someone and hand them a piece of paper with maybe just that particular property on it to get things started, and then go back and have a separate conversation? Or is it will it be a better practice? We'll find that it's good to send it digitally beforehand to remove some of the awkwardness of that, handing someone a piece of paper to say, hey, before we go in and look at this house, you've got to sign this. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all sort of shakes out, but definitely something that we're looking at and trying to stay ahead of.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that feature. I've seen it advertised. I would just say, I think the reason that I feel confident being bullish is because I believe in the long game. And I believe that, and I've been taught that your business is your database. And so when you work a great top 50 and when you work a great SOI, and then you have some acquired leads, then they become part of the database, and we know how to work that. We know how to work a great top 50. We know how to work an SOI, and those then become our future sellers. So to me, it's a way that the funnel starts to get filled and expands the database, and we get returns out of our database. And so I that's number one. And it's that repeat, and it's like our value of an agent. There's repeat referral there. So that's just the long game. The short game is, do we know what to say, and have we prepared our agents to go and do a great job for people and for themselves? And so we've been really proactive, I think is the right word, to do parts of our buyer presentation and consultation and make sure that the agents know how to present this well, because we're bringing, when you're acquiring leads, we want to make sure that they know how to explain that, and then it just goes into the rest of the funnel. I guess that's my thought on it.
No, that's great. That's great.
I passed. Oh, good.
Well, and I think too, and we've talked a little bit about buyer leads. I think there's a tendency to think of CINC oftentimes as a buyer first lead generation tool, and by and large it has been, right? But we also do offer seller leads, and we've always offered seller leads, and it's becoming a larger portion. I would say 6 months ago it was 75-25 buyer to seller splits, and now we're seeing more like 60-40. And so something that's interesting that I think, as we've sort of looked at the stats and the direction, the way that things are going and potentially changing, right? And I agree totally with what Fellow said yesterday, that the teams that are using their databases to turn them into listing machines are the ones that are going to be the most profitable and successful moving forward. And with that, I think that it's important to understand too that buyer leads, oftentimes buyers or sellers are masquerading as buyers, right? Because you think about the journey of how someone goes through the decision to buy and sell a home. It starts with, I have a need. I need to expand. I need to grow my family. I need to upgrade. It usually doesn't start with, I think I can get $2 million for my home. And so where do they start that journey? They start that journey with searching for a house online, and that's where we can capture them top of funnel buyer lead generation. So we find that about between 55-60% of people that are coming in, and I think I'm probably being a little conservative with that number, are buyers that come in actually have a home to sell. Right, so it's important that the scripts are right on asking and making sure, and that's one thing that CINC does, is try to ask that question in the registration process so that you can identify people with a home to sell as well. Because currently it's twice as expensive, I think, to buy a seller lead as it is a buyer lead. But if all that money shifts in the market, it means buyer leads are going to get way less expensive. And we've been seeing that quarter over quarter. Whereas seller leads are going to start to get more and more expensive because there's a finite universe of those. So I don't know what you guys have your thoughts on that moving forward. I know we didn't,
Well, I'll save you.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
I saw on Kirk's game you guys hug in the grid game the other day. So that was good to see that you guys were all getting along, because I think they're complementary technologies. Meaning, we have, for a small company in a small state, we have just under 13,500 leads in our system, and I absolutely want to leverage them. But you're the people that brought us this big group of people, and you said 2008. I was probably even earlier than that, or 2018. I was probably even earlier than that. But we've found so many uses. I've never been a huge fan of recruiting with lead generation, but I'm becoming a little bit more gray on it. Meaning, I've always had this triangle. A lot of you guys have seen me coach this, but I believe that as team leaders or broker owner, well, team leaders really, we provide the ability to teach them to do 12 deals and then provide them with 12 opportunities. We never say leads, because I want them to be still hunting, right? And one of the things we did on our last interview last week is we actually showed her the volume of people that we had that were available to her to get those 12 opportunities. And another big thing for us is Mike Koch is a huge help to me in my recruiting growth. And I've been with Mike as a coach and a friend for, 10 years now. And one of the things that he did is he built into his day 3 of his onboarding that we go into ponds. So we've set the expectation with the 10 things to be on my team that by day 3 you're going to be doing, and we did 10 calls a day for the first week, 20 calls for the second week, 30 for the third. So I think there's so many places, but I think what you're saying is true. It doesn't matter if you're getting us seller leads also. What it matters is we're growing this really big pond of things that we can bring other resources to that are gonna talk to. You guys have all learned, not just you, but all the technology companies have learned that the more inclusive you are, the more you can bring people that love one tool into another tool. And that's what I think is gonna happen here, is we're gonna take the amazing stuff we've gotten over the last 10 years with you, and it's gonna help us move into the retirement stage that Deb and I have, because we're gonna be able, and listening to what Mike's been doing, we're gonna be able to get on that side of the market outside of our top 50 in sphere of influence, which is where we've always been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great point.
I have a question back here, or a comment.
Yeah. Questions from the peanut gallery.
So we've had CINC for a while also, and I have also talked to several of you guys about it. But as far as the buyer leads versus seller leads, we actually pulled up our website to see, because we only do the buyer leads on it. And just of the last 25 leads that have come in for us, 10 of them were also sellers and said that they were sellers. So 10 out of 25 were also, quote, seller leads, but they came in as a buyer lead.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think to Jim's point too, right? I would love for it if we'd quit calling them buyer leads and seller leads and just call them real estate leads. And ultimately, they're part of a resource that we're creating for our teams and for our agents, that they can maximize. There's more than one way to make money off of a lead, right? So I think keeping that in mind and looking for those ways to create opportunity out of the resources that you're investing in, no matter if it's buyer or seller, is probably a winning strategy. Yeah.
I think another thing that I love about that is there's actually a thing called Seller Suite on there. So if somebody logs onto my website and they're curious about their home value, there's literally a button they click that says, type in your address, we'll send you a free CMA. And I love when I get an email from CINC that's like, hey, here's somebody that wants a free CMA. Like, it's literally somebody raising their hand saying, hey, I want to sell my house. All you have to do is call them. And the other cool feature about that is there's a link that's branded with my name, my face, my logo, that I can copy and paste straight into my social media and all of my other landing pages, that if they click that link somewhere else, it funnels right back into CINC and puts them into a category of seller leads. So not only do you have to have them go to the website to do something, you can take that link and put it on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on whatever you want to, and then you can pay to boost that link. And if I mean, it can go everywhere where you could target market those people that are looking to sell or certain neighborhoods. And when they click that link, it goes right back into your sync and it captures their phone number, their email. They put their address in. Like it just makes it so easy for our lead gen that we're not just calling people to be busy. We're calling people because we're being productive. Those are people that we know are going to answer the phone, that are going to do something in the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's great. How do you coach the people you work with if they're considering the decision of going from individual production to building and growing a team? How does online lead generation and the right CRM platform play into that process?
Start again. So honestly, I always believe that my team should be utilizing everything they can do organically first, meaning we're servicing all of our leads first before we pay. But then once we've gotten that dialed in correctly and we're seeing the conversions we expect to see both on the buyer and seller side, then what I want to do is find a way to boost it. And that's when I'm going to bring it in. I need the infrastructure of the ability to honor the leads that are coming in, and that's the right word, which is most teams that are running, I'm going to just say buyer for this one. Buyer leads they're very high cherry picking. They're looking for people that have the 26 inquiries, and those are the only people they're calling, and they're calling them once. But when you've built the discipline of an ABC or however you're tracking, and you know that they're doing it the right number of times, you've gotten that one running, and you bring this in, and they honor it. We have never gotten probably less than a 4 to 5x return on our sync, which is fantastic because we're primarily an SOI and top 50 company. So that's bonus money to us because we are not like in the phase of our growth that we want to be out in the world like
Right.
hunting for new things.
Yeah.
So I think that I just think that one of the greatest things is that and the other thing is working 24 hours a day. That was one that I definitely wanted to get out. I mean, I don't know Alex. I'm sure people have talked to Alex, but that's going to be Deb, and that's going to be Lisa, and that's going to be Heather. But I know when I come in the morning, there are people that have registered and had multiple contacts through, because what I do is I look at the page almost every day just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So
We coach to have 4 pillars. And so this is one of our team pillars. And so when we're navigating from a coaching perspective, what are your 4 pillars going to be? If this is one that makes sense for a coaching client, a CRM always makes sense. So I believe in CINC for that. I chose it. But whether I guess that's all I'm saying is like it's a very powerful CRM. They're going to need that no matter what. They're going to need 4 pillars. It lets us accomplish that and attract and take really great care of them. So how do I coach them into that? Yeah, it's a key system that we need.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap it up real quick before I get the hook. I do want to say that the reason why we love Workman Success Systems and working with all of you so much is because Workman's not just about, here's strategically and sort of like in the clouds, right? Like what you should be doing. It's not, stand in front of the mirror and say your daily affirmations, drink a gallon of water and exercise before 7 a.m. every morning and you'll be more productive. It's tactical stuff on how to actually buy and sell real estate and get your clients to the point of success. And that aligns perfectly with our credo of becoming the indispensable technology partner to agents, teams, and brokerages. And so, again, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to come up here to speak, and then also just treating us like family and bringing us in. We really appreciate it and have enjoyed spending time with all of you. So, thank you. And
thank you to everyone on the panel and CINC. Thank you so much for being such a great partner for us. We really appreciate you.